Here's my review of The Wild Robot. Right off the bat, I think that this is the best animated film of the year, and I think it is one of the best films of the year. And from the very opening scene, I just couldn't help but think, wow, this movie is just gorgeous. And almost instantly, when the robot first comes out of this shipping container, this assistance robot that lands on this deserted island with no humans, I love how it immediately is like it tries to help, and it just takes on these skills of other animals that she sees around him. This robot Roz, voiced by Lupita Nyong'o, she does such a great job. I mean, I haven't seen much of Lupita Nyong'o, but I think of the things that I have seen her in, she's always just so good, and she's able to just do so much with her voice. Even though she's doing a robotic voice, she's able to have so much emotion behind it. And this whole movie, I think, is just filled with just gorgeous visuals. I think you could just pause this movie at any point and just you want to frame that on your wall. It just looks beautiful. And because it's got this really unique watercolor look, like you almost see the lines on stuff in certain scenes, and you see almost like if it's out of a book. And this is based on a book, and it's just beautiful. I think it's like I said, I think it's the best animated film of the year. And I love how there's when she first tries to have this assistant robot, of course that was made for humans, and that's why but it got shipwrecked basically on this island. We get she spends a couple of days. I think it's supposed to be I don't know if it's supposed to be I think it's supposed to be months actually, just sitting on this sitting in this one spot, just translating all the animals' language until basically we just have them speak English. And the voice acting, all these voice actors are so good. Pedro Pascal as this fox he is great. And it makes me just think how Pedro Pascal is just in recent years, he is just he's been around for quite a bit, but I feel like in recent years he's really just shown how much of a talent that he is, because he is fantastic. But where this movie actually starts, and the main plot of this movie, is Roz has to take care of this orphaned gosling. And that's what really provides the heart of this movie. Because we see she was crash landed, when she kind of crashed, and she's exploring this island, she crashes into this nest and kills the mother and all the eggs except for one. And it's not really a spoiler. I mean, all my reviews are spoilers anyways, but that happens very early on. But it is kind of falling into that lie revealed trope that you've seen so many times. But a lot of it is just focusing on just the parenthood between Roz and this Gosling. Like I said, the celebrity voice cast I think is just so great. Like Catherine O'Hara, she's great, and there are a lot of really dark jokes, especially from her, and it really does talk about how the brutality of nature, where she's explaining to Roz you're doing everything you can to protect your kids, and sometimes you just can't, and they will get killed. And then you hear this roar and this scream, and she had 12 kids, and then she's like, oh, now I have 11. And it's just it's played off as this really dark joke, but it just shows this just brutality of nature, which I loved that part. I think that's very important. And I feel like this movie it kept blowing me away just how creative and just beautiful this movie is, especially when we see all these different types of atmospheres, whether when there's snow, rain, thunderstorms, just sunny. It just always looks so beautiful, and I just love how keep calling Roz, not Oz, just has all these unique features, like their eyes can glow, she can do stuff with her body, she can turn her head 360 degrees, all that stuff is just so cool. And another big part of this movie is where Roz has to teach Brightbill how to fly, because, well, normally the mother is supposed to teach her, and because especially considering how late it was on, it's even harder for him. And I thought that part was beautiful, and it's so obvious. Throughout this movie, you're just seeing this basically mother-son dynamic. I thought it was done just excellently here. I thought it was fantastic. And like I said, it's a movie where I definitely want to watch this movie again, because I just loved it that much. And I think that it just shows just this beautiful relationship, not just between mother and son really, but also just I think Roz as a character, just seeing her interactions with all of the wildlife, like Fink, the fox, I just think is great. And I do think that Fink adds a lot of depth, and Pedro Pascal just does such a great job with the voice. And they basically tell him to you very early, like, he's the runt of the litter. Like without his mother, his birth mother, the chances of him surviving are very low. And that's why it almost feels like a ticking time clock, because we know that this duck, like they basically set out this 3-point plan. This gosling has to learn how to swim, like walk, eat, fly, all before winter. Otherwise, he will freeze to death. So it just has that sense of like, oh wow, this is drastic. This is very, very important. Like, you cannot fail this mission. And we see, especially in this movie, that they are willing to take risks. That does feel like a possibility that could happen. Because, I mean, we see, like, the death of his family at the beginning. It just gives that sense of, like, oh, wow, they will go there for a kid's movie. I did kind of feel like the ending, though, like, I still love this movie. At least I still think this is the best animated film of the year, personally. I do feel like the ending kind of felt a little generic, because it feels a lot more action-based, which just doesn't really mix well with the drama, that would just basically like a drama movie, I feel like, for the first 2/3 of this movie. And a lot of it is her teaming up with this wildlife and saving this wildlife, especially in the blizzard, into this cave. And like I said, I thought it was beautiful. And I think that them also, like, when they get into our villains, who are basically like the corporations that made this robot, it does kind of feel like meh, because we don't really see them at all, because we're so focused on Roz and this island. But I will say, when we see some of them, like one of them's voiced by Stephanie Hsu, she was great. So like I said, I have a couple of nitpicks with this movie, but overall I just really, really liked it. So yeah, from the gorgeous to unique animation, with all the different color palettes, the watercoloring, the different atmosphere, whether it's snow or rain, all that, I thought just kept me enthralled through this whole movie. And it's just a movie I want us to go see it again. So from the gorgeous animation to the awesome characters, with also just a darker, more mature tone about like death and parenting, I thought was just beautifully done. And like I said, I think this is the best animated film of the year. I really, really loved it. I want to see it again. I mean, maybe I'm hyping it up a little too much. Who knows? Maybe when I rewatch it, I'll be like, I didn't like it as much. But as of right now, I really like it. My only main complaint is just like, I think that when we're getting into like this corporation who made the robot, because there's this plot about how she's going off track, Roz, it just wasn't as interesting as being on this small island with these animals and learning about these animals and like this motherhood, this parenting, just wasn't as compelling. But overall, I really liked this movie. So yeah, I think that this is the best animated film 2024. I think it is one of the best movies of 2024.